Welcome back to Swat&Vee Immigration News. Please don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Senator Alex Pedler, Democrat California, and Rand Paul, Republican Kentucky, proposed legislation Wednesday, September 15, 2021, that would put so-called documented dreamers or foreign citizens who grew up legally in the U.S. on a parent's work visa but then aged out on a path to permanent residency, a rare bipartisan effort on immigration. The bill would allow more than 200,000 people who came to the US as children and graduated from American universities to apply for a green card. This would spare them from having to leave the country after they turned 21, the point at which they become too old to remain on their parents' visas. Paul said in a statement that children who were raised in the US with legal immigration status shouldn't be penalized by the government's failure in addressing green card backlogs. These children who have legally called the United States home for many years and even decades are contributing members in our communities and to our economy, he continued. In today's video, we will provide you more updates on Congress' efforts for a path to citizenship for documented dreamers. Let's get into the video. Senators introduced a bipartisan bill on Wednesday that would create a pathway to citizenship for some children and young adults who were raised in the United States but faced deportation at age 21. The legislation, called the American Children Act, was introduced after the House this week advanced the text of a sweeping 3.5 trillion spending dollars plan that would also write into law pathway to citizenship for the same group known as documented dreamers. They are young people who live in the country legally until age 21 as the dependents of parents who hold non-immigrant visas, but many never qualify for permanent residency, and some that are eligible for green cards as children get stuck in the vast green card backlogs and are unable to gain residency before they turn 21 and are kicked out of line. The move indicates broad bipartisan support in both chambers for documented dreamers following a year-long push for them to be included in an immigration overhaul. For too long, young immigrants like us, who have been raised and educated here as Americans, has been forced to leave the country we call home, said De Patel, the founder of Improve the Dream, an organization that advocates for documented dreamers. The introduction of American Children Act means so much to thousands of us who have only known America as their home. The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program, introduced by President Obama in 2012, which protects about 650,000 young immigrants from deportation, requires applicants to be undocumented, leaving out documented dreamers. Under the proposed legislation, at least 200,000 young adults who have lived in the United States for at least 10 years on a valid visa and graduated from an institution of higher education would be eligible for permanent residence. Mr. Patel, 25, a Canadian citizen, has lived in the United States for more than 16 years. His parents came to the United States on E2 visa, a program that allows small business investors to reside in the United States, and opened a grocery store in Southern Illinois. It was not until he was in high school that Mr. Patel realized that his dependent visa would expire when he turned 21, complicating his future. An E2 visa is one that can be renewed endlessly, but it does not offer a pathway to citizenship. It's such a little known thing, said Mr. Patel. Most Americans don't even know that it's possible for someone, an immigrant's child, to be brought here under a legal status but still do not have a path to citizenship. The American Children Act is the first effort to create a path to citizenship for documented dreamers that has broad bipartisan support in the House and Senate. The Senate bill is co-sponsored by 3 Democrats who sit on the Judiciary Committee and have jurisdiction over immigration legislation, including the chairman, Senator Deborah of Illinois, the Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, and Susan Collins of Maine, also co-sponsors. Democrats hope to pass broad immigration reform, including for documented dreamers, through the $3.5 trillion social policy package, but it is unclear whether it is untimely to be included because Democrats are seeking to pass the bill through a unilateral maneuver known as budget reconciliation. The Senate parliamentarian, who is the chamber's top rules enforcer, will ultimately rule on whether including an overhaul of immigration law in the economic package would violate a Senate rule dating back to the mid 1980s. Representative Deborah Ross, Democrat of North Carolina, who led the efforts to introduce standalone legislation to protect documented dreamers and co-sponsored the House bill, said that she thought the case for including immigration reform in the legislation was clear. She cited the tens of billions of dollars in growth that experts have estimated that documented dreamers alone would add to the economy if allowed to live in the United States. Mr. Patel, a clinical pharmacist in Illinois, has been able to stay in the United States first on a student visa and now an employer-sponsored visa. But many in his position are not able to find alternative visas and must leave the country. And Mr. Patel still must renew his current visa every 3 years. The process is challenging because the terms of non-immigrant visa requires the applicant to demonstrate that they do not intend to settle permanently in the United States. In my case, and that of many others, it's almost impossible to do that when you have lived in America for basically your whole life, Mr. Patel said. He began Improve the Dream to create a supportive community for other families in his position. He said, many of whom were afraid to speak up for fear that they might lose what immigration status they have. The organization grew quickly and ultimately helped draft the American Students Act. I have confidence that documented dreamers won't be ignored anymore, Mr. Patel said. This broad bipartisan support shows that this solution should be included in any effort at immigration reform. Please share this video with family and friends who may need it. You can also help us spread the message by sharing it on all social media. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe and hit on the notification bell for more immigration updates. Bye!